Hey everybody, welcome back to the Growth Marriage Podcast. I am super stoked that you are tuning in today. And if you're listening to this the day it goes live, Happy New Year. New Year's Eve or New Year's Day specifically, is my favorite holiday of the year. It's right up there with Thanksgiving. I love practicing gratitude and I love new beginnings. The thing I love most about New Year's Day is that the entire world comes together and says, hey, the old year is ending. We're gonna let our old selves end with that old year, and we're gonna recommit, or we're gonna commit to being even better this year than we were last year. And people make all these resolutions and these goals, and everybody's starting at the same time. So you can't get flack for starting a new goal because everybody's doing it. It's like this amazing day where everybody agrees that you can have a fresh start no matter where you're at in life. And I love fresh starts. I love recommitting. So here's how I celebrate New Year's. It might be different than the way you celebrate it. That's totally okay. Most people will go out and they'll drink champagne and they'll count down till midnight and they'll eat lots of decadent foods and they stay out really late. And I go to bed at like 9:30 and I eat or wake up in the morning and I write. Do some writing and I exercise, have a really great workout. I eat a nice healthy breakfast and I start my year off on January 1st, the way I want to start every subsequent day off in that year. I don't get caught up. I don't want to start my year like feeling hungover and exhausted and gross and bloated and tired. So I will probably be asleep while many of you are up celebrating New Year's, and that's totally okay. But it's the reason I celebrate it that way is because I love new beginnings. Speaking of fun things to celebrate new beginnings, I'm not going to talk about goals today. Everybody's going to talk about goals over the next couple of weeks on their podcasts and on their blogs, and you'll see everybody talking about like New Year's commitments and resolutions. And today, I actually want to share something with you that has been on my mind a lot lately. It's this really interesting concept that I've been studying in the business world, and there's this direct and beautiful application into marriage. And this concept is something that Simon Sinek, if you're familiar with his work, he wrote a book back in the day called Start With Why, and his more recent book is called The Infinite Game. And one of my favorite marketers, Seth Godin, talks about the infinite game as well. And it's this really interesting concept that totally applies to marriage. So the idea is that in life, we're all very familiar with finite games. A finite game is something that has known players, there's fixed rules, and there's agreed upon objectives. So a board game is a finite game. There's a clear winner and a clear loser, and there's rules. You know, playing Monopoly, that's a finite game. Basketball, football, volleyball, just any sport is a finite game. Quidditch, fictional sports. I guess people really go play Quidditch, so it's not that fictional. When you approach your marriage as if it was a finite game, it's easy to get discouraged. You're going to have expectations that you're going to overcome struggles in a shorter amount of time, maybe than you overcome them. You're going to expect things to happen in a certain time frame and in a certain way. You might get attached to your marriage looking at a certain way at a certain point in your life. And if it doesn't happen that way, you're not winning the game. And then you get disappointed and frustrated. But if you approach it as if it's an infinite game and the goal is just to enjoy playing the game or perpetuate it as long as possible, you're much more willing to like roll with the punches, adapt to new circumstances that were not foreseen. And it can make the experience of participating in marriage, participating in the game, way more exciting. So in his book, Simon Sinek breaks down 5 keys to succeeding at playing an infinite game. And I want to share those with you and then show you how they relate to having a successful marriage. And a lot of this stuff is going to feel very similar to the growth ecosystem, which is why I was really fascinated by this topic, because there's so much overlap with some of the things that we've already been talking about and some of the things that we're already doing together to help support you in being successful in your marriage. So the first thing that you need to be successful in an infinite game is you need to have a just cause. You need to have something that gets you, that inspires you so much that it wakes you up in the morning. This is very similar to the growth ecosystem, where you have a goal, or like the sun portion, something to strive towards, an ideal that inspires you and makes you want to do the work in order to see the successes and see the victories inside your relationship. If you don't have a just cause, if you don't have that ideal to strive towards, you lose momentum, you lose your why, you lose your incentive to participate in the game. But when you know that participating is going to give you really positive feelings and really positive experiences and really positive relationships, and it will contribute in a very meaningful and powerful way to your life, it gives you a reason to wake up and participate in the game. So starting with that first thing, a just cause, is really, really important. The second thing that you need to succeed in an infinite game is a just cause. Or excuse me, you need a courageous leader. You need a leader who is not focused on one specific outcome, but who is there to inspire the participants on the team in a business or within the marriage. Somebody who can paint a picture of the just cause or the goal that you're striving towards. They can show the participants inside the marriage or the team or the business like what the dream is that we're pursuing and why it's so important, and how incredible it will be if we can solve this problem or overcome this obstacle or help each other succeed in these really, really cool ways. And in large part, I have raised my hand and said, I would love to be the courageous leader for this movement. And in addition, you can be the courageous leader inside your own marriage. You can be the person who carries the torch and leads the charge into creating the marriage of your dreams. And remember, one of the great things about an infinite game is there's no set rules. So your marriage doesn't have to look like anybody else's marriage. You can paint whatever picture you want, whatever inspires you, whatever inspires your partner, as long as you're willing to continue to rally the troops, get them excited, get them invested, and drive them forward. So that's the second thing that you need is courageous leadership, a courageous leader. The third thing is that you need to have a vulnerable team. Now, by vulnerable, that doesn't mean that in order to have a successful marriage, you have to walk around crying and talking about your feelings all the time. That is maybe an aspect of vulnerability, but that's not what I mean when I say vulnerable in this specific context. What I mean when I say having a vulnerable team or a vulnerable partnership in the case of marriage is that you both feel like you can show up as yourself. You don't have to put on a face for your partner. You don't have to worry about impressing them or trying to be somebody you're not in order for you to earn their love. That is not, that if you feel like you have to earn your partner's love by being somebody that you're not, you are missing out on an important aspect of what will help you succeed in the infinite game. Cultivating that type of relationship where you can trust each other to show up as your authentic self and be really open and transparent with who you are is absolutely vital. Another piece of having a vulnerable relationship or a vulnerable team is that you are able to develop the type of trust in your relationship where you can take risks without retribution. Sometimes in business and in life, in marriage, when somebody has an idea and they just swing for the fences and they go for it, they take action on this idea and it flops, we punish them for it. And inside of maybe it's going big on a really cool birthday gift and taking a risk and hoping that it will be something that you enjoy. Or maybe it's planning a specific date night, or maybe it's having a really difficult conversation and opening up and sharing feelings for the first time, and it just doesn't go the way that it was planned. If you aren't allowed to fail in your relationship, you're missing an important element of what makes the infinite game possible and playable and enjoyable. Part of that process and part of being vulnerable with each other is allowing each other the space to screw up, to mess up. I get a lot of messages from partners, from people who say that they have been very hurt by their partner shutting them down for doing something wrong. It could be anything from making a mistake, silly ones, like loading the dishwasher wrong or folding the laundry wrong. One of my favorite stories from my wife and I when we were newlyweds is we'd only been married a couple of weeks, and I was doing the laundry, and I asked my wife if she wanted me to fold her shirts a specific way. She was like, no, any way you want to do it is fine. And so I started folding her shirts, and I was watching a show, and I had this pile of laundry next to me, and on the left side was mine, and on the right side was hers. And then After about 20 minutes of folding laundry, she came in and sat next to me on the right, next to her pile. And I saw out of the corner of my eye, she started like picking up her shirts and unfolding them and then refolding them. And I was ticked. I was hurt. I felt really upset with her that she was redoing my work after she told me there was no wrong way to do it. And I felt like I wasn't given permission to screw up inside the relationship. And I ended up punishing my wife. I told her, I'm no longer helping you with fold your clothes. I will do my own laundry. You do your own laundry. Don't expect help from me. And after a couple of weeks, my wife approached me and she actually told me the very same thing I told her. She's like, is this the way our marriage is going to be? And I said, what do you mean? And she's like, every time I make a mistake, I admit I made a mistake by correcting the way you were folding my clothes, especially after you were being generous and helping me to fold them. And you're totally entitled to be upset. But is this the way our marriage is going to be, that every time I make a mistake like that, you're just going to punish me for the rest of our marriage? And I had to eat my own words because I was feeling humiliated that she was rejecting my act of service. And then she felt like she had to, she got to that point where she felt like she had to walk on eggshells, because if she made any mistake in the relationship, I would just go on and punish her for it. And that, you can't play an infinite game that is enjoyable with your partner, a game that has no end, if you aren't allowed to fail and screw up. So now we do our best to celebrate failures. And one of the things that we do is we reward each other for effort, not for outcome. When I see my wife trying to do something, whether she does it well or not, that will benefit my life, I make it a point to praise her. You know, when she wakes up in the morning when she doesn't want to and she exercises, man, I love having a fit wife. I love having a wife who cares about her body. So on the days when she doesn't exercise, I don't complain and nag her about it. I try really, really hard to just focus on praising her and complimenting her for the days where she does work out. You know, if she doesn't do the dishes for 3 days, I just try and keep my mouth shut, and I go in and I do the dishes by myself, and that's totally fine. And then if one day she comes in and starts helping me do the dishes and we do it together, I just tell her how much it means to me. And I praise the effort that she puts into making my life better. And I try to ignore the moments where she's not putting in the effort. And then she's got that incentive, or either where she's not putting in the effort or where she might be failing in a commitment. You know, it doesn't, you can't punish your partner into submission and expect to have a happy and fulfilling relationship. The only way to have an amazing relationship and to play the infinite game in a way where you feel like you're both winning is to praise your partner on the way there. So that is another thing that we do to try and keep that momentum going in our favor when we're playing the infinite game. The fourth thing that Simon Sinek talks about is having a worthy adversary. A worthy adversary isn't somebody that you want to absolutely defeat. It's an adversary that you respect and that you learn from, and that makes you want to be better. And for me, in my life, and maybe for you, my worthy adversary is a mediocre marriage. I try and conceptualize what it would be like if I were to settle. Not settle for a wife that I deserve more than, but to settle for being the kind of husband that is less than what I have the potential to be. That to me is what settling is. Settling is accepting mediocre performance as the best that you can do and the best that you're going to do. And to me, a mediocre marriage is the type of marriage where you stop caring, you stop investing, you stop educating yourself, you stop praising your partner for things that are their job. You put on the poop-colored glasses and you filter everything through a negative context. Like, that to me is a mediocre marriage. It's a marriage of mutual toleration. And that is my adversary. I refuse to have a marriage of mutual toleration. I don't want to feel like I'm enduring the rest of my life with my partner. I want to feel like I'm in a 24/7 slumber party with my best friend. That's what I shoot for. And every day doesn't feel that way, but that is the adversary that I have, that I'm trying to defeat, that I'm positioning myself against and measuring myself against to make sure that I am in a good place and making and having momentum in the direction that I want to have. The last thing that you need to have to be successful in an infinite game is you have to have an open playbook. So Simon Sinek talks a lot about the difference between having a variable strategy and a fixed strategy. Fixed strategy is when you get in your mind that this is the pathway to success and this is the only pathway to success, and if we deviate from this pathway to success, we're failing. And I think a lot of people fall prey to this mentality when it comes to marriage. They think we should be married by a certain time in our life, we should have so many kids, we should live in a certain type of house and have certain type of friends and a certain type of income, and our Instagram feed should look a certain way, and we should dress a certain way and go on vacation to certain places and drive a certain type of car and have a house that's a certain size. And they have this really strict and fixed view of what their marriage should look like, what they should and shouldn't be struggling with. You know, some people believe like we should never have to struggle with a difference in faith, or we should never have to struggle with problems in the bedroom, or we should never have to struggle with finances, or we should never have to struggle with in-law issues. And there's all these struggles that couples face that show up that are completely unexpected, like health issues are a great example, or an issue with a child who's got who brings an extra amount of struggles and challenges into the family's life. Like, these are things that show up for people all the time, and they're completely unplanned. And if you have a fixed strategy, a fixed mindset of how you think your marriage should be, then you're going to be in a world of hurt, because not only are you going to have to deal with this issue, but you have to deal with your commitment to the fact that your life isn't going the way that you planned it to be, and you're going to try and shoehorn your life into that plan, and it's not going to fit, and it's not going to work. So you got to learn to have a variable strategy. Having a variable strategy means you are able to adapt to the problems that pop up in your life. You can adjust yourself to the circumstances as they arise. If you can be adaptable, if you can have this variable strategy mindset, no matter what life throws at you, you're going to be able to just take it in stride and go, oh, that's interesting. This is a problem we didn't foresee. How can we change our approach as a partnership? How can we change our strategy or the way that we're living our life so that this new obstacle doesn't destroy us, or doesn't come between us, doesn't divide us? And I can't tell you how many people, when an obstacle comes up in their life, they just go, well, I guess that's it. I'm leaving my marriage, and they walk away. They're not playing an infinite game. They're playing a finite game. They're playing a game that only works under certain conditions. If you're playing an infinite game, it means you can play under any condition because you set the rules. And so if you're committed to your marriage being a certain way, and it turns out, hey, your marriage isn't that way anymore, or maybe it's changing from the way that you thought it would be, take a deep breath and think, how can I participate in this marriage in a way that is both enjoyable to me and to my partner, and different from maybe the plan that I had set out for myself? Is it possible? It might take some creativity. It might require you to dig deep. It might require you to adjust your expectations a little bit, but it's absolutely possible. People do it all the time. So that is the 5 things that you can do to successfully play an infinite game in your marriage. 1, make sure you have a just cause. Number 2, make sure that you have a courageous leader. Hi, I'm happy to be that courageous leader that you can lean on, and I want you to be that courageous leader for you inside your marriage. Number 3, you need to have vulnerability. You need to give each other space to make mistakes, to be yourselves, and you need to be able to reward behaviors and not outcomes. Reward effort and not outcomes. Number 4, a worthy adversary. Mediocre marriage. Don't let that be you. Like, make that your adversary, the thing that you compare yourself to, that pushes you to never become that, or to defeat that. And then the 5th one is an open playbook, which means that you need to have a variable strategy towards your marriage, not a fixed strategy. You need to be flexible and adaptable, and you need to make sure that all of the rules inside your marriage are known and open, and you have like a code of conduct, and everybody knows, everybody who's playing the game with you knows what success looks like and what failure looks like, and what behaviors are going to be rewarded and which ones are not. If you can take this approach to your marriage and honestly treat your marriage like a game where you get to make up the rules and you get to decide what you need to do in order to make the game fun so that you can play it forever, it changes everything. It totally changes everything. And if you're not having fun in your marriage right now, it's a great time to go back with your partner and reassess the rules. Hey, Which of the 5 aspects on this podcast are we missing? Are we missing a courageous leader? Are we missing a just cause? Are we missing some vulnerability inside of our relationship? Do we not have a worthy adversary? Have we not had open and honest communication about the plans that we have moving forward? Are we too fixated on a specific plan? How can we learn to be a little bit more flexible and make the necessary changes in our relationship so that we can enjoy it? Man, you have that conversation and you'd be surprised how quickly you can go from hating your marriage to loving it just by treating it like an infinite game. Remember, when you get married, most of you got married, and one of the things you said during that marriage ceremony is "till death do you part." That's the finish line, death. And that can be something that you look forward to because your marriage is so miserable that you just want to die. I literally talked to a woman a couple of weeks ago that told me that. She's like, I just want to die so that maybe God in the next life can give me a better husband. And it broke my heart. I was like, there are people out there who hate their marriage that much that they are waiting for death. So you could be that person, or you could be the person who loves every minute and hopes that death never comes because marriage already feels like heaven. It already feels amazing. And it's because you created an infinite game that feels incredible to play. So take that concept of the infinite game, think about what rules you want to play by in the next year. Think about who you want to play with, and what objective will help incentivize you to want to play this game forever and enjoy it. And have that conversation with your partner and see how it changes your year. All right, got a lot of really cool episodes coming up for you in 2020. I hope you're excited, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you enjoyed it, I would love it if you would jump over to iTunes and leave a quick rating or review. Honestly, vulnerable moment for me, it is uncomfortable for me to just sit here and talk on a microphone without doing an interview. I'm so used to having conversations, but this is something that I really want to master, and more interviews will be coming down the road, but this is a skill that I want to master. And I know I talk fast and I have a tendency to ramble, and I really appreciate that you are listening to these podcasts and picking out the morsels of truth that are really going to benefit you as I try to learn this and master this skill of speaking to nobody, speaking to you, but in the present, it's just me, a camera, and a microphone, and it feels a little bit daunting. And I'm enjoying the experience of being way outside my comfort zone, and I appreciate you listening and hopefully gleaning something important from these episodes that will help you have a stronger and healthier and happier marriage. Talk to you guys next week.